Herbert Mullin was led to court today from his special security cell, he walked into two courtroom firsts. Public knowledge of the charges against him of murdering 10 people.
Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to True Crime and Wine. We gave up on the Wednesdays. It's just True Crime and Wine once a week, baby. And we're back this week. We got the Christmas tree up in the beauty room. We got some Christmas decor on Gabby's bar cart. And for anyone wondering if I've moved back home, the answer is no, I have not. I came out here because Gabby was in LA with me. Then I was like, well, there's a pandemic going on, so let me just go home and visit my family. And I've just been here chilling. Because I figure if I go back to LA, what am I gonna do there? I can stay in Boston during these weird and crazy times and film as much content as possible with Gabby, because I know when I go back to LA, it's probably gonna be like another 4, 5, 6 months before I see her again. Although we need to work on that, because I think that's completely unnecessary. I'm not dating in LA. I don't know if I would even want to date in LA right now, because I was just getting my vagina waxed the other day, and this lady was like, yeah, one of my clients went on a blind date and then they both got COVID, and I was like, what? So I'm not really like trying to date right now and have some other who I don't even probably like. I'm just kind of lonely and desperate. Give me COVID, all because I'm desperate. So I'm just gonna focus on the bag right now, and when love is supposed to be in my life, it'll just be there. You know what I'm saying? Right? Okay. Glad I'm making sense to everyone. But we're back for True Crime and Wine. Before I get into True Crime and Wine, I had somebody leave me a comment on my YouTube. I deleted it. I didn't block them from my channel because I do believe they're a fan. I know that they're giving their opinion on, what they're viewing when they're watching me. And they said, you seem very negative lately. Everything you're talking and posting about is negative. Your Instagram, your TikTok, the bad bitch reunion, whatever they said. Guys, I need you to understand that although we want to provide really great content for all viewers on the channel, that doesn't mean everything we post is gonna be something you enjoy. If we're going through drama, like being banned from TikTok, or being locked out of Instagram, or Natalie Nunn scamming us for thousands of dollars, and that's what we talk about for 1 video, 2 videos, 3 videos, or 4 videos, that's our God-given right to do so. Now, we're not saying you have to watch every single video. In fact, you don't have to watch any of the videos. But I'm not cool with people telling me that I'm being very negative and I seem like I'm in a dark place and they don't know what's going on with me. I'm very open about what's going on with me. All right? Oh, we miss you laughing. We miss you doing this. I laugh every day. I laugh in videos all the time. I even laugh in videos where I'm pissed. All right? You get real, you got authentic, you got me. So if I'm in a pissed off mood for 3 weeks straight, that's what you're gonna get, because that's who I am in those moments. So I appreciate the advice. I appreciate where you're coming from. That's why I didn't block you. But I need people to understand that when you are viewing people on their YouTube and you don't like what they're giving you, you don't have to watch. Just like I told everyone who was upset that we are putting a lot of content on Wave. You don't have to subscribe. You're gonna miss out on a lot of great videos. Like, we just posted a video taking you to North Andover, Massachusetts, where we grew up, where I was convinced I was a white girl, where I lost my virginity. There's gonna be great content on Wave. There's also gonna be content on YouTube. However, it's exhausting to try to do both, but we're doing it, okay? That's why I said I'm not gonna go back to LA right now, because I'm gonna try to do as much content with my sister as possible, because when I go back to LA, who knows if the world is gonna shut down, because I'm hearing in 14 days, if cases are still on the rise, we're gonna be in a complete and utter lockdown again. So I don't know if I go back to LA when I would be able to see my sister again, let alone fly. And that's also another reason why I'm staying here, because I don't want to go there and then all of a sudden I can't come back for Christmas or whatever. So I just need you guys to understand that if negative things are happening in our lives, we're gonna talk about them. I talk about everything. I talk about my good times, my bad times, and every time in between. I give you reaction videos, I give you story times, I give you true crime and wine. So when someone tells me I don't know what's going on with you lately, maybe it's a reflection on yourself, honestly, fuck you. Oh, first Instagram, now TikTok. So me talking about racism on a TikTok and being deleted is a reflection on myself, because I'm a negative human being. Sometimes I just don't understand the words that come out of some of your mouths. Now, this person did seem like they were a fan, so I didn't block them, but I'm also bringing this up because I need you guys to understand that we are human beings. We're not robots. I can't put on a happy face and smile and dance for a video because that's what you're expecting to see. I film in the moment. If I beef with a female online, another bad girl for instance, I'm probably gonna look like I'm a stanky ass in that video because I'm pissed the fuck off. That's what you're gonna get because I film in the moment. I'm not an actress. I'm a human being. So if you think that whatever is going on with me is negative, hit unsubscribe, please. Because I don't want someone who understands that when negative things happen in my life, I will be talking about them. And I don't care if it's 1 time or 100 times. I'm going to talk about it as much as I want to talk about it because it's my channel. And I'm not being mean, I'm not being rude. A lot of people always think that I'm being rude or I'm being negative or whatever because I have a very monotone voice, but this is how I speak. You know, sometimes I have a lot of enthusiasm when I'm talking about something exciting or I'm storytelling. But most of the time when I'm talking to people, it's like this, very monotone. So when I'm explaining to you and telling you to unsubscribe, it's not because I'm being a bitch, it's just me being real. If you feel a type of way with the videos that I or Gabby or whoever is posting, you don't have to watch them. Watch what you want to watch. Subscribe if you want to be subscribed. If you're smart, you'll subscribe to my channel. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I didn't block that person. I didn't like the comment, so I didn't keep it on my page. But I am telling you what the comment is here, and I'm explaining it just in case anyone else feels that way as well. If you guys are tired of hearing about Natalie Nunn or being robbed, how about y'all try to be robbed for $5,000? How about y'all try to get banned from TikTok for doing nothing wrong? Just simply talking about racism. How about y'all get locked out of Instagram because some girl you used to be friends with leaked your number on her YouTube, which she now says she didn't do intentionally, but she did intentionally. And then somehow, some way tried to hack back into my account, or had someone, probably someone she paid $3,000 to, because lo and behold, that is the bounty she's put out on killing me and my dog. So if all of that seems a little too negative for you, and I'm not happy and bubbly in my normal Danny self, I don't know what to f***ing tell you. I'm not going to be smiling after someone tells me they're going to chop Caesar up into little pieces. Just not going to be doing it. Now, if you think me being locked out of my Instagram is a reflection on myself because I was friends with Winter and Winter decided to leak my number, that's not a reflection on myself. That's a reflection on somebody that was in my life that was a shitty, horrible human being. But anyways, I just wanted to get through that rant. Honestly, I think this This was a rough start for the True Crime and Wine, so thank you for bearing with me. It was a whole almost 10 minutes of explaining myself, but I just don't know at this point why I even need to explain myself. But in case other people were feeling the same way this commenter felt, I felt it was important to address it. So, on that note, let's get back into True Crime and Wine. So, as you guys all know, I did Ed Kemper 2 weeks ago. At the same time Ed Kemper was harassing and killing and stalking co-eds, there was 2 other serial killers. There was John Linley Frazier, which I covered last week. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. And this week I'm covering the second serial killer that was terrorizing Santa Cruz, California, giving it the nickname, the murder capital of the world. And his name is Herbert Mullin. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I would never date anyone with the name Herbert. And I don't even know if I'm saying this right, because Hubert would be H-U. So it has to be Herbert, which is terrible because it rhymes with sherbet. And I don't know about y'all, but I f***ing hate sherbet. When you're a kid, they convince you that sherbet is really good. And you're like, yeah, sherbet for dessert. But it's really because your parents don't want you eating ice cream. And then you grow up and you realize sherbet's disgusting. So not only does his name rhyme with sherbet, he is a herb, short for Herbert. Anyone from the East Coast used to know that herb was a popular phrase. Yo, that dude's such a herb, or damn, he's super herby, meaning he's a tool bag. And this guy was more than a tool bag. He was a motherfucking serial killer. So let's get into the story. Herbert Mullin was born in Salinas, California on April 18th, 1947. The motherfucker is an Aries. Not a Sag for once, an Aries. But Gabby was telling me that a lot of serial killers are also Aries. So Sagittarius and Aries, huge question mark. Like, I'm literally like, But then again, Jeffrey Dahmer was a Taurus. So maybe there's just serial killers in every month. I don't know, but he's an Aries. His life started out pretty normal. He had a great family, a loving family. By the time he graduated high school, he was voted most likely to succeed. Little did they know. Yeah, most likely to succeed in murder. Most likely to succeed in becoming a serial killer. I didn't get voted to be anything in my high school yearbook. I don't even know. I didn't even buy a yearbook. That's kind of sad. Because now, like, I can't even go back in time and be like, oh, you know, remember this person? Remember this person from science class? I literally don't remember what like 90% of my school looks like. But I wasn't voted anything. But the girl that punched me in the face at the youth center because she was dating the guy I lost my virginity to, and the guy I lost my virginity to was cheating on her with me, she was voted most beautiful. Oh no, she lost. That's right, that's the story. She lost to this girl named Jess, and I guess she like stormed through the high school hallways having a conniption. That is probably a serial killer now, honestly. There's too much pressure in high school. I hope it's not still like that. Anyone who's in high school right now, are they still doing the votes of most likely? And first of all, who's even voting? I don't remember filling out a piece of paper voting for people. Do you guys remember that? It's like, who the fuck actually picked who won those categories? I'm so confused. After he graduated high school, his best friend died in a tragic car accident. After his best friend died, Herbert's life went tragically downhill. Drastically downhill. Later, experts will say that the death of his best friend in a tragedy like a car accident is what set forth his schizophrenia. Now, I'm a little confused by that because unless someone already had schizophrenia, how would something trigger it? When I read that in an article, I was a little confused and taken back by that statement. For anyone that knows anyone personally with schizophrenia, or has had a family member or a friend or whatever, or is a nurse and has worked with schizophrenic patients, can something tragic in your life just bring on schizophrenia? Or did you already have schizophrenia and something tragic is just a trigger? It's very confusing to me, and I don't really know much about schizophrenia, so I'm not going to spend too much time during this true crime talking about it. But that was a little confusing. I don't know if it's confusing for anyone else, but if anyone wants to chime in the comment section, please let me know. By the age of 19th, really, Danielle? By the age of 19, Mullin, I'm just gonna call him Mullin because I feel like his name is just like, I'm just gonna call him Herb. Let's call him Herb. No, I can't do that because it's not his real name. By the age of 19, this motherfucker, how about that? Does that work? This motherfucker. This guy was using drugs such as weed and LSD that made the symptoms of his mental illness much worse. No shit. The same thing happened to John Linley Frazier. He started doing hallucinogens and imagined that God was telling him to kill an entire innocent family. So now we got Herbert Mullin on the same streets as Ed Kemper and John Linley Frazier, taking LSD and marijuana, not knowing he has schizophrenia. By the age of 21, his family started to notice the red flags that were schizophrenia. His behavior was irrational. Everything about him just screamed, something is terribly wrong. He voluntarily entered a local hospital, but after 6 weeks, he just left. He gave up. And by the time he left, the doctors gave him a poor diagnosis. Basically meaning they didn't see a great future for him. And they were right, because he is about to become a serial killer. In the next couple of years after turning 21, he involuntarily and voluntarily checked himself into hospitals. He did not take his prescribed medication, and he rarely showed up to his group therapy sessions. Doctors at this point changed his diagnosis to poor to grave, which is a lot worse than poor. Okay, so they saw a very bad future for him. Now they're seeing an even worse future. He had a job. And at his job, he confided in his coworkers that he was in fact hearing voices. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I'm working with the motherfucker who confides in me that he's hearing voices, I'm gonna engage in the conversation fully, from beginning to end. I'm gonna act like I'm truly interested, because I am. And I'm immediately going to my boss. I'm gonna tell him about the conversation we had. And then I'm gonna tell him that I'm gonna need a paid leave of absence because I don't feel comfortable working with someone who hears voices. What about y'all? I'm not just gonna like sit there and be like, oh cool, you hear voices? All right, bet, see you tomorrow at work, Herbert. Maybe tomorrow is the day the voice in your head tells you to kill us all. That, no. Hell no. But I guess times were different back then, all right? Things were different. People maybe thought hearing voices was normal and cool. I don't know, but if someone comes up to me and says, hey, I'm hearing voices, I'm gonna say, oh, and I'm running with my tail in between my legs to my boss, and I'm snitching. By the age of 23, 3 different doctors diagnosed Herbert with schizophrenia. 3 different doctors. In 1906, San Francisco had a devastating earthquake. The earthquake happened on the same day as Herbert Mullin's birthday. So, Herbert started having really bizarre thoughts in regards to this devastating earthquake that happened on his birthday in 1906. Decades, literally decades before he was born. In 1972, a mathematician predicted that on January 4th, 1973, the San Andreas Fault was going to unleash a deadly earthquake onto Northern California that would destroy San Francisco. Now, at the same time this mathematician makes this prediction, Herbert Mullin is already having bizarre schizophrenic thoughts about how his birthday was on the same day as the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. So after he hears this prediction from the mathematician, he will later tell people that he heard voices that told him that he had to make human sacrifices to prevent this devastating earthquake from coming on January 4th, 1973. Herbert's new mission in life was to kill humans. Human sacrifice. That was his mission. I've got to kill people to prevent this earthquake. So on October 13th, 1972, Herbert's killing spree began. He was driving down the road and he spots a homeless man trying to hitch a ride. Herbert pulls over. The homeless man thinks this dude is about to like give him a ride, give him a lift, and he beats him to death with a bat. Later, Herbert would tell people that he believed the homeless man named Lawrence White was Jonah from the Bible, and that he had telepathically told him that he would be a sacrifice so that other people could be saved, and then killed him. Lawrence's body was found a few days later, but because he was homeless, no one really thought anything to it and nobody cared. On October 24th, Herbert picked up his next victim. Her name was Mary Guilfoyle. I'm so sorry, her last name, I'm not pronouncing it right, I know I'm not, so please forgive me. Please forgive me. She was hitchhiking. Again, back in the day, hitchhiking was cool, it was a thing. I don't understand it, I'll never understand it, but she was hitchhiking. Herbert stabbed her, then dismembered her, and then threw her remains all over the road. Her body was actually not discovered until February of the next year, which doesn't really make sense to me because, I mean, maybe it does make sense because if her body was scattered everywhere, then it would probably take a while. But I mean, if I'm like walking or driving and I see like even a random body part, I'm like, there's a body part here, and then I would imagine a search would ensue. But whatever, her body was not found until February of the next year. Fun fact, remember when I did Ed Kemper's true crime and I said at one point he was linked to 4 different murders, but one of the murders was not him, was not his doing? Well, guess what? That murder was actually Mary. And they thought it was Ed Kemper's victim because of the dismemberment was one of Ed Kemper's traits, serial killing traits. So they linked her to Ed Kemper, but really it was Herbert Mullin who stabbed and dismembered her. Sick. On November 2nd, Herbert headed to a Catholic church to confess his sins, because at this point, whew, he has a lot of sins to confess, okay? So he goes and he sits in the confessional with Father Henry Tomei, probably saying his name incorrectly. Herbert beat and stabbed Father Henry right there in the confessional. He believed that Father Henry had sacrificed himself for the cause to prevent the earthquake. So Herbert eventually flees the church, and as he flees, he leaves Father Henry to bleed to death in his own confessional, in his own church. So January 5th, 1973 comes, and no earthquake has happened. The predicted horrible San Andreas Fault earthquake that this mathematician predicted never happened. So in Herbert's mind, he's like, oh my God, because of my killings, I am saving the world. On January 25th, 1973, he kills 5 people all in the same day. He went to an acquaintance home who was a drug dealer. His name was Jim Gennara, and his wife. He shot both Jim and his wife right there in the couple's home. And even though they were already dead, before he left the couple's home, he stabbed them repeatedly. Hashtag overkill. After he left Jim's home, he went to another acquaintance home. Her name was Kathy Francis. There he shot both her and her 2 sons, Damon and David, to death. But before he left her home, he stabbed all their corpses repeatedly as well. Again, hashtag overkill, hashtag psycho, hashtag what in the actual. Why the children? Why anyone? But most importantly, why the children? Like, are you kidding? On February 10th, Herbert was walking through a state park called Henry Cowell Redwood State Park, where he stumbled across 4 young boys. They were teenagers. The 4 boys were just camping out, enjoying themselves, having a grand old time. Herbert engaged in conversation with them. He pretended to be a park ranger. He told them that they needed to get their things and leave the park because they were polluting it. They laughed at him and they refused to leave. Mind you, at the time, the teenage boys had a .22 rifle on them and took the park ranger, who was Herbert, as a joke. Herbert ends up leaving, and as promised, he showed up the next day. He shot and killed all 4 of the teenage boys. He abandoned their bodies in the park, and they actually were not discovered for an entire week. Herbert's final murder took place on February 10th. He was driving down a road and saw Fred Perez weeding his lawn. And for no reason whatsoever, Herbert swung his station wagon into a full-blown U-turn, drove back, got out of his car, aimed his rifle on the top of his hood, and shot and killed Fred Perez instantly. Got back into his car and drove off calmly. Now this was broad daylight, so there was plenty of witnesses, one including one of Fred Perez's neighbor who witnessed the whole thing and wrote down the license plate number of Herbert's station wagon and immediately called police. Only a few minutes later did the police catch up with Herbert, and he did not resist arrest. He let the cops take him. Of course, this went to trial. Prosecutors could charge Herbert with 10 of the 13 murders. Now, I couldn't find anywhere why he could not be charged for the other 3, but he did get charged for 10 out of the 13th.
Herbert Mullin was led to court today from his special security cell. He walked into 2 courtroom firsts. Public knowledge of the charges against him of murdering 10 people prompted the judge to change procedure. As prospective jurors waited, each was taken separately to the chambers of Judge Charles Franich. The questioning was done in private because Franich said the scandalous nature of the crimes might make them more cautious in open court. The other change came partly because of Mullin's plea, not guilty and not guilty by reason of insanity. For the first time in California history, the sanity phase of a trial will not come after the verdict. The prosecution and defense agreed because if the jury finds Mullin to have diminished capacity, he can't be found guilty of murder in the first degree. It took Franich some 10 minutes just to read the grand jury charges against Mullin, that he killed a mother and her 2 children, 4 teenage boys, a young married couple, and a 72-year-old former prizefighter.
He wanted to represent himself. He did not want a lawyer. But because of his mental illness and his state in life, the judge said absolutely not and appointed him a public defender. Herbert at one point tried to fire his public defender, but the judge would not allow it. During his trial, he always brought up the voices that told him to kill. And he even at one point said that one of the voices was his own father's, who told him that he must kill to save lives, to prevent an earthquake from happening.
He learned his father was going to pay the lawyer's fee, and he did not want to impose a financial burden on his family. A public defender was appointed immediately. With tight security all around, those who went into the court of Judge Donald May then witnessed Mullin attempt to enter a written plea of nolo contender, no contest, to the 10 murder charges against him. The judge said he could not accept such a plea to such serious charges so early in a proceeding from a defendant who had not discussed it with an attorney. Mullin had then written guilty as his plea to the charges. For the same reasons, the judge refused to accept this. Finally, Judge May entered a not guilty plea to the accusations on behalf of Mullin, a step the defendant said he did not agree with, and told the court he refused to accept the attorney appointed to defend him. But that attorney, James Jackson, the man who had defended John Linley Frazier, told us he still represented Mullin.
Are you fired?
No.
Why not?
He can't fire me.
Why not?
He has no choice in the matter. The judge won't let him.
So you are representing him?
Yes. The only thing he can do now is raise some money and hire a lawyer, and he doesn't have any money.
Are you, or were you surprised that he entered the pleas that he tried to enter today? Tried to enter those?
No.
He told you in advance about this?
I can't answer that. I can't tell you what he's told me, but I was not surprised.
You think that any attorney would allow him to enter a plea of nolo contendere or guilty on 10 counts of murder?
I can't think of anyone who would.
Will he really plead not guilty?
He already has.
But will he? The judge pled for him.
If he has any choice in the matter, he won't, as far as I know. But I don't know him that well.
Mullin was taken from here back to the San Mateo County Jail in Redwood City, where he is being held. Santa Cruz County officials don't believe their jail.
At some points during the trial, he would even take out pieces of paper and jot any or all of his crazy ideas down on pieces of paper. Despite his clear insanity, the jury found Herbert guilty of all 10 murders, and in August of 1973, he was sentenced to life in prison. Till this day, he remains in Mule Creek State Prison in Lone, California. Despite multiple times of trying, Herbert has always, and probably will always be, denied parole. Sorry, Herbert. Sorry you're a fucking psychopathic serial killer who is never getting out of jail. So, sucks to be you. Fuck you, Herbert. Fuck you, Ed Kemper. And fuck you, John Linley Frazier. Fuck you all for making Santa Cruz the murder capital of the world. And for ruining so many lives back in the 70s. You're the worst. Before I end this video, I thought I'd do something a little different. There's an Ed Kemper interview where he actually discusses Herbert Mullin, because they were in the same jail for a while, and I don't know if they shared the same jail cell or they had a jail cell right next to each other, but they actually had a bunch of conversations and knew each other. Two serial killers under the same jail having conversations. So I figured we all could watch that, some of it, just to see what one serial killer has to say about another, because I predict that it's like exactly like who a pissing contest. Well, I killed these people and I got away with these many murders. Well, I got away with these many murders before I got caught, and this is how I got caught, and I didn't resist arrest. Well, I didn't either. I turned myself in too. I just imagine it being a pissing contest. So let's go ahead and watch some of this interview.
I wouldn't blame him. I was in a jail cell right next to him for months, and I was in prison up in the hole here in the lockup unit for going on 3 years with him, about two and a half years. And at one point I got him a job in the kitchen. I was already on the kitchen crew, and a sergeant pulled me aside and asked me to talk to the guys about him coming on the crew, because he alienated a lot of the guys and they were afraid there'd be violence. So I talked to them and there was no problem. So they brought him out to the crew. He worked a few months. He goes to the main line. I'm still sitting in the hole saying, geez, what happened here? And, you know.
Pissing contest.
I don't call him Herbert Mullin, and of course I don't call myself Edmund Emil Kemper III either. I never heard that in my life until I was locked up for murdering.
For murdering. Is that even a word?
Was when I met him in Redwood City Jail, okay? Our first meeting was I bumped him out of his priority cell, where they could look from the office and see through the steel door.
I bumped him out of his priority cell. I did that.
Monitor and watch him. He got bumped next door. There was a shower in the priority cell. Never had to leave the cell. For him to shower from the other cell, he had to go out into the main area. They had to lock everybody in one of the, I guess you call them tanks. They moved 15 guys, 30 guys out of the tank into the activity area. They'd walk him around into their tank. He'd shower. He'd come back out, and all the way over there and all the way back. They're catcalling him. They're calling him names. They're yelling.
Jail must suck. Oh my God.
Great interruption in their day, right?
Like, no.
He resented that. He got bumped out of the priority cell into a non-shower cell. I got the shower cell.
I got the shower cell.
So he wasn't too friendly at first. And I'd say, excuse me, Mr. Mullin. I says, do you have a bar of soap? There's no soap over here. He took it all with him. He had no need for it, but he took it with him. And he'd say yes. And I'd say, well, can I use a bar of it? He said, no. I'd say, well, I've got one of these little shits here. And what it is, he's a little wimpy guy that hates big guys because he always feels intimidated by them.
Is that it?
That's how he started out.
He probably just hates people.
So I started thinking about that, and I went back to my old relationships in therapy and group therapy and Tascadero and youth authority and stuff, and I'm saying, okay, well, we can deal with this. So I said, well, I have to be kind to him. So I found out something he liked. He loved Planters peanuts, little bags of peanuts. Shelled peanuts, and so I bought 20, 30 bags of them. I didn't care for them myself.
How do people buy in jail?
I offered him some one day, and they were both on camera 24 hours a day. So I said, Herbie, would you like some peanuts?
Herbie.
Yeah. And I said, oh, I got to him, right down to the inner core there. Yeah, this little childhood thing comes out. I says, oh, here. And he was fascinated by this thought of, gee, he's just giving me some peanuts, and I didn't do anything for him. I don't know him. Not being nice to him, why would he give me some peanuts? So he comes over to the bars. We can't even see each other, and I reach out with these peanuts on the side, and I see this little hand come out. And I thought of it almost as a little monkey paw. That's what it seemed like, so innocent. And this little hand comes out, starts to reach for the peanuts, and then he hesitated, and he pulls back. And I thought, oh, geez, he's defensive. He's thinking I'm going to grab his hand and rip his arm off or something. I'm this great big guy, right? So
oh my God, he's narcissistic.
And I laid him on the bars and then pulled my hand away. And he took them and he enjoyed them and all of that. And I'd say, gee, Herbie, did you eat all those peanuts?
Herbie.
Oh, no, I still got some left. I said, well, I got plenty more. I says, go ahead and enjoy them. So what I did is I started giving him bags of peanuts. And he had this horrible habit. There's guys back in the tank, and he and I are in these cells facing them through 3 sets of bars. And I can't see him. He can't see me. I don't know where on the set of bars he is. The set of bars is maybe 9 feet wide and, 8 or 9 feet high. And when he would get to acting up, he'd sit there for hours, writing and writing at this little desk. And the other guys were ignoring him. So that night they're watching Saturday Night Special, with all this rock music playing and stuff, and they're enjoying it. And he'd get up and make this real loud speech about how bad television is for you, why you shouldn't watch it, all the things it'll do to you. And they're having fits. They're trying to throw things at him. They can't get at him. They're raging. They're mad because he's destroying the one thing they really enjoy. And he's just having a ball doing this. He'll sit for hours all day writing this 2-hour speech, exactly as long as it takes to watch that show. So he'd also sit over there and sing these horrible songs. He couldn't sing a lick at all. And he's singing these horrible songs. And one time I was in the car coming back to Redwood City, and the cop got so upset at the singing he's doing in the back of the station wagon. He turns around with his can of mace. He says, "I've had it. Get out of the way, Kemper." And I said, "Hey, wait a minute. You're going to get me with it."
They had 2 serial killers in the same fucking cop car? What in the actual...
And he's trying to get him to shut up, and the guy just ignored him. He had this way of really getting in people's nerves. So he'd pull these little stunts, these horrible songs and the speeches and things. And I'd say, "Herbert, why do you do stuff like that?" He says, "Oh, I have a right to do what I want to do, too." Yeah, okay, right. So I started this, what they call just real basic behavior modification therapy. Okay, I'd had a little bit of psychology study. I'd worked in the psych testing area in Atascadero. I knew some of these things. So I set up a very basic and very essential, just bare minimum behavior mod experiment.
Wait a second, a serial killer who knows about psychology makes me think how many psychologists are serial killers.
Quick punishment when they do bad and quick reward when they do good. Supposedly this is supposed to attack you at a subliminal level, a subconscious level, and you don't have a lot of control over your reactions, that it would improve your behavior essentially. And then they have these great elaborate experiments like in Youth Authority when I went through, where they try these things. So what I did is when he was bad, I'd get a cup full of water, a styrofoam cup, and I'd reach around and I'd throw it on him. And it's embarrassing, and it also gets his papers wet, and, So we got this cat and mouse game. When he was good, I'd give him peanuts, and I'd try to gas him when he was bad. It's called gassing. Throw this water on him. And he'd duck all over the house. I couldn't figure out where he was at, so I kept missing him. So what I did is I waited one day till I knew he was asleep, or I suspected he was. And I called one of the guys over to the bars from the place in the back, the tank. And I went like this. I says, and he reads it. He says, and I called him over to the bars and I said, "Hey," I said, "I want to work something out where I can get Herbie with these cups of water and he can't figure out how I'm doing it." And I says, "I just thought of a way." He says, "What's that?" And I said, "I want you to set up a grid on the bars where you're at. Put a little piece of string or a little piece of plastic or a little..."
I'm sorry, is he talking to a cop or someone else that's in a jail cell? I'm so confused.
His cell front. And from the wall, go over that far on your set and set up boundaries. And then when I give you a signal that will be a hand signal, very casually walk over. Don't look at me, just casually walk over and drape yourself on the bars where he's at. So I'll know. And if he's back away from the bars, go back that far and position yourself so it's a grid. It's targeted grid.
So basically when you're in jail, you have far too much time on your hands.
You'd hear me turn the water on, or maybe I'd have some already set up, and I'd reach through the bars and I'd blast him. I got him every time. And he couldn't figure out how all of a sudden I got so accurate. And it was without fail. I'd get him with that water, wham. And, it's embarrassing, and everybody's laughing back there, and good shot Ed, and all that stuff. And then I'd ask him if he'd do something, or, "Hey, can we do this," or whatever, and he'd participate in something with me. I'd give him peanuts. When he's bad, he gets blasted with water. This went on for 2 or 3 weeks. And he actually got away from the bad behavior. When he said, "Hey, I want to sing," I says, "Well, hey, guys in the back, do you mind if he sings?" "Oh, we don't want to hear that shit." I said, "Hey, you want to hear it now, or do you want to hear it tonight when you're watching the show?" "Yeah, okay, so go ahead, Herbie, sing."
What did you sing?
And he'd sing for 30, 40 seconds, and he'd get bored and say, "Gee, I want to do this more." Because the fun was gone out of it. But the point is, it got a handle on his behavior, and the cops are watching this. The deputies are on camera watching me. They're on the monitors watching every move I'm making, right? And they're fascinated. They're watching this thing going back and forth with me and Herbie. They're not involving themselves. They're just watching it. And after a while, one of them come in and said, "Herbie is completely cooperative now. He's not messing around." Because I've been, as we're talking, these little frictions out between he and I'm showing him some insights into why people don't like him. I'm showing some insights into what his behavior is causing in them. And he had realized by that point that it was just reacting. to how people are reacting to him, and it's just a self-perpetuating thing. And it was the only way he could get out his negative feelings. And I said, well, why don't you focus on the positive instead, and the negative will go away. I don't think anybody ever did that with him before, because he responded real well to it. And later, when we were up here in the hole together, and we weren't even supposed to be together. They didn't want us together, but we were up in the hole
yeah,
together.
two serial killers together, what the
He was the only guy you could talk to. A lot of pain inside, he had a lot of anguish inside, he had a lot of hate inside, and it was addressed to people he didn't even know because he didn't dare do anything to the people he knew, because he was aware of all of the structure around that, and that would be the end of his life. And so I started, the way I found out about these things is I would pose little comments or questions aimed at him as we're sitting up there on the tier, on the concrete floor, sitting there against the wall, talking to one another. And I would say, how did you feel? You know, when you bought that little Saturday Night Special 22, I says, did you ever go out shooting with that? You know, just target shooting? He says, well, not much. And I say, well, try this on. You loaded it up, you went out, you set up bottles, you set up cans.
Ed Kemper's horrifying, by the way.
Areas right around close and practice shooting them real fast. And he looks at me all shocked. He says, how do you know that? And I said, because that's what I used to do. And those were people. Those weren't cans and bottles. And you never told anybody. So he got all fascinated about how I was able to read his mind and stuff. I wasn't. I saw a kindred spirit there. Somebody who was doing something very similar to what I was doing as a child. He went to mental institutions and he went through these processes where these doctors told him what was wrong with him, and these doctors treated things that they decided were wrong with him, and he just sat back very passively and went through these treatments, and they had almost no effect on him because he didn't dare say what was really going on in his head, because they would cast him off somewhere. He'd be totally separated from the human race, and there were certain things he and certain things I enjoyed in being in the human race and being part of the human race. We weren't willing to let go of. So that was that little desperate hanging on. So here comes these professionals saying, oh, this is wrong with you, little lad, and this is wrong with you, and we're going to fix this up, and okay, I'm well, and yeah. Goes out and buys a gun and starts killing people. And I talk about what happened when he killed those people. Oh, they fell dead. And I said, no, they did this, they did that, they gargled, and some of them kept moving like you hadn't even shot them. And you shot them again, and he says, how did you know this? You weren't there. And I says, I know. I never told anybody that. I know. I was there on my own trip. I know what happened.
This is...
Herbie, don't give me that bullshit about earthquakes, and don't give me that crap about God was telling you. I said, you couldn't even be talking to me now if God was talking to you because of the pressure I'm putting on you right now. These little shocking insights into what you did. God would start talking to you right now if you were really that kind of ill. Because I grew up with people like that. Where? In a maximum security hospital for the criminally insane. Adults. I was 15 years old when I went there.
Well, to see a serial killer with the intelligence of an actual psychologist and being able to change another serial killer's behavior is quite frightening. I don't know about y'all, but probably gonna give me nightmares tonight. So that wraps up the 3 serial killers that terrorized Santa Cruz, California in the 70s and made it the murder capital of the world. I will have a new person next week for True Crime and Wine. But I just wanted to do all those 3 together since they all killed at the same exact time and were kind of linked to some degree. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's True Crime and Wine. Give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but as I always say, if you're giving it a thumbs down, you probably shouldn't be on this channel. But if you are gonna be here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, but also hit that bell, because if you don't hit the bell, you will not get notifications, and if you don't get notifications, what is the point? There is none. Follow me on Instagram, XXO Danielle, Swallow Podcast, the official Victor Twins, Little Caesar the Frenchie for my dog. Subscribe to our Wave channel. Link is in the description box. There is lots of other videos and tons of more videos going on our Wave, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. It'll be worth the $3.99 a month, I promise you. And yeah, I love you guys to the moon and back. For anyone who follows me on OnlyFans, I am sorry I haven't been posting. I am gonna get back to it. It's just been a little bit of a dramatic month. So feel free to become a fan on OnlyFans at onlyfans.com/XXODanielle. Love you guys. Be safe. Pay attention to your surroundings. And make sure that you have pepper spray or no self-defense, or can take care of yourself. Take care of yourself in case a motherfucker like Herbert Mullin decides to creep up behind you or in front of you or whatever. I don't know. Just be safe, you guys. The world is a scary place. Every week on True Crime and Wine, we will remind ourselves that there are people out here right now as we speak just as fucked up and just as twisted and just as gnarly as Ed Kemper, John Linley Frazier, and Herbert Mullin. So be safe. Love you.